Learning disabilities, there is a cure. Listening skill development. Auditory memory in context. Development of attention, listening, processing, and recall. Auditory memory in context involves being able to take in information that is presented orally to you, process that information, store it in your mind, and then recall what you have heard. Basically, it involves the task of attending, listening, processing, storing, and recalling. This can be an extremely difficult task for some students. While most students develop listening skills without specific instruction, some children do not. A weakness in auditory memory in context can have serious consequences academically for students because they tend to pick up only bits and pieces of what is being said during a classroom lecture. And auditory memory weaknesses of students can easily go undetected by a teacher. Because their eyes may be focused on the teacher and they appear to be attentive, it is easy for the teacher to assume that students have heard all that is being taught. However, in reality, they may have absorbed and made sense out of very little of what is being stated by the teacher. As a result, these students recall only a small amount or none of what is being said. They might remember a word here or there, or bits and pieces of the teacher's presentation, but often do not truly understand much of the information presented orally to them. Students with auditory memory deficiencies frequently experience difficulty comprehending orally presented directions. For example, they might think that they have understood directions for completing their assignments when actually they have understood very little. As a result, assignments are often completed incorrectly. Students with auditory memory deficiencies will often experience difficulty developing a good understanding of words, remembering terms, and information that has been presented orally, for example, in history or science class. In addition, these students will even experience difficulty processing and recalling information that they have read to themselves. For when we read, we must listen and process information we say to ourselves, even when we read silently. If we do not attend and listen to our silent input, we cannot process the information or recall what we have read. Therefore, even silent reading involves a form of listening. Auditory memory involving contextual information, that is, in a sentence or paragraph whereby meaning can be obtained, is equally important to the process of learning. Students with auditory memory problems in this area often cannot recall an entire sentence that has been presented orally, or they may be able to recall a short sentence of 3 words in length, but not a longer sentence. This weakness poses many problems for students and adversely affects their oral comprehension and ability to follow oral directions. In addition, while some students can recall a lengthy sentence well, they may not be able to process and recall a short paragraph that is presented orally. Sometimes parents and educators assume that children have understood an entire passage. When a student is able to answer a specific question about the passage, it is easy for educators to assume that the child understood the entire passage. Yet in reality, that specific information may be all they have gleaned from the passage. Therefore, students should be encouraged to restate passages, that is, the main idea and supporting details, in order to demonstrate that they have total comprehension. While we want our students to be prepared to answer specific questions from passages they have read or they have heard, we also need to be certain that they comprehend passages in their entirety. Interestingly, there appears to be a higher percentage of students with weaknesses in the auditory memory areas than any other learning skill area. In addition, most children who are diagnosed with a learning disability or with ADD, attention deficit disorder, or ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity, have serious auditory memory deficiencies. These children are desperately in need of remediation in auditory skill areas and benefit tremendously from work in this area. While it is important for students who are poor listeners to be identified and told that they need to improve their listening skills, telling these students that they are poor listeners and that they, quote, need to listen, does not solve their deficiency. Having them practice listening to material also does not solve the deficiency. In order to develop good listening skills, students with serious auditory memory problems need to be taught how to listen. They need to be taught with exercises that begin at their present listening skill level and developmentally increase in length and difficulty. In addition, it should not be assumed that because a student is able to listen well to fictional material, that he is also able to attend, process, listen, and recall contextual nonfiction material for subjects such as history, science, or mathematics. Attending to nonfiction material involves more factual material and requires attention, listening, and recall of many more facts, dates, names, numbers, and places, making it even more challenging. Therefore, it is essential for educators and parents to develop auditory memory in context for both fiction and nonfiction, and to cover sentence building as well as paragraph building in the fiction and nonfiction areas. Lastly, it is important to mention that all students, even gifted students, benefit from the advancement of their listening. Auditory Memory in Context instructional workbook was designed to teach students in a developmental fashion how to achieve good listening skills, making learning a great deal easier and building a skill that is needed throughout their lives in daily living and in their profession. For more information, check out the website www.achievepublications.com.